My name is Tibor. This is a webinar for DaVinci Resolve 17 with some of the things that 17 introduced. Before we start, I need to say hello to a couple of our sponsors. Dell Computers, you maybe heard of them, and here they are. And Saramonic make these headphones and little work things. So these are our sponsors. Say hello to them. If you sign up for any class at Future Media Concept, you become a alumni and you can get some discounts. So with that out of the way, let's jump into where we need to be. I see Carol, Daniel, James, Jim, Joe, Chris, Randolph, Richard, Stephen, and William. So whoever is with us, welcome everybody. If you can't hear me, I can get closer to the microphone if you're okay. Let's jump into it. First thing is that I will go and open up my DaVinci Resolve, and my version is the studio version. That's the one that you pay about $300. And when you open it up, the project selection gives you a variety of things, and there are two different ways of looking at things. You can use it as a numeric, so you can see what was the date of creation. And I will open up a webinar project that I set up earlier. So if I want to import it, I go into the right click, import the project, and my project sits on one of my solid state external drives. And this is how it was set up. The DRP in the DaVinci signifies the extension DaVinci Resolve project. If you go into other elements that are given to you, especially if you download some training, you might find a DRA. That's an archive that contains all the elements of the video and the audio. And there's also a DRT, which is a timeline that was introduced in version 17. So you can import each of those. You can import an archive, a project, or a timeline. So let's move along. I'm opening up an existing external location. In this case, external is a solid state drive, the Resolve July webinar. Let's open it up and see what I have for you. I will not make a copy of it. I will just use the one that I am working on. So shows up, double click, opens it up. When you start, there's a workspace drop down, set up the user interface layout. So it resets it to default. If the media pool is in your way, go and close it. So the source is on the left side, record on the right side. And you notice that there are buttons on the bottom. The media, that's when you bring in material or connect material. Cut is very new. It was introduced 2 versions ago. It's very popular amongst people who are novices and they come to the free version. And it is very similar. If you remember, there was a product in the Apple family called iMovie. Very simple, cut, very logical, very powerful though. The cool thing is that it is connected to the edit interface that you're familiar with if you're Premiere, Avid, or Final Cut, or any other user. So with this, I have set up a number of sequences that are going to be covering things. So my name is, and this is webinar 17.2.2. This was, I believe, introduced in July 1st or 2nd, something like that. So this is the newest version of the 17 family. And these are the topics that I hope to cover. Adjustment track, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the color warper, face refinement, magic mask, and object removal. These are the things that you may have seen independently, individually on YouTube or any of the places where they talk about new stuff. I'll try to get a global concentration of these elements. So in my timeline, I have a number of these sequences. They may not have been organized in a proper sequence. So 1 needs to be maybe in front of 3, grab it, move it in front of 3, 2 goes into 3. And the question is, how is it possible that I can see all these at one time? This is something that in Premiere you already have. And in DaVinci Resolve, you had to go in the upper left-hand corner in the timeline area. And in the timeline view options, you had to turn on the stacked timelines. Otherwise, you see only a timeline. And if you don't know what its name is or what number or anything like that, you would have to see it in the upper right-hand corner or the upper right area of the program viewer. So that is, this is actually, you can switch between timelines You can actually define which is the one you're going to work on. But the point is that the only way you see what you are looking at in the timeline is this one. So what is the adjustment track? Let's go into the adjustment track. The adjustment track is something that you're familiar with either in Avid or Premiere. If you need to adjust a section of a sequence, here are the possible scenarios. I'm going to delete everything that I have because, oh, by the way, I need to delete them with a big delete. There we go. Take them out. Notice that my color of each of these segments, if you go into the color work area, you know that individually each of these elements can be adjusted, brightened, darkened, and any of the variations that you can come up with. If a producer wants to have the show either black and white or some specific color, instead of copying from clip to clip, you could in the upper right-hand area, click on the clip and switch from the clip view to the timeline view. In the timeline view, you are thinking about adding a filter that applies to everybody below. And in order for you to do that, on a Macintosh is Option S, on a Windows it's Alt S, adds a node, and you notice this node is a blue node. If I want to make sure that it is black and white, I bring the saturation down, so now it's black and white. When I say black and white, I presume you understand that every shot is black and white, even though in the timeline boxes, it shows you the thumbnails as color. Well, because I am adding a filter above everybody. In the color, you are able to adjust everybody globally with switching from the clip to the timeline, and now you have a story. If you want to be really creative, maybe push the red a little bit and take away the blue, and then bring up a little bit the saturation, and you can come up with some nice sepia tone kind of look. The entire story. So the entire story is sepia tone. But where is the sepia tone? That is where the adjustment clip comes in. It is equivalent to the Premiere's adjustment layer. So let's find it. You get out of the timeline, you delete either the actual node, or you can right click on it and say reset the node. So now it's back to normal. I usually delete it because I don't want to deal with that as we go along. But watch this, please. In the edit, you shrink slightly your video track one. Hello. There we go. In the upper left-hand corner where the media pool and the effect library shows up, pick the effect library. In the effect library, you will look for a video effect. So in the effect family, you will see an adjustment clip. How does the adjustment clip work? Grab it and put it onto the second video track. You know that you can move things around as a brick. You know that you can also trim it. So let's say 1/3 of the show is going to be a specific color or specific look, and the rest of it is going to be different. When I say different, I am saying that I'm going to duplicate this particular adjustment clip by holding down Option on a Mac. On the Windows, it's Alt, and you're duplicating it. And I'm going to duplicate it maybe 2 more times. So I have 4 different looks. Shift Z shows the entire timeline. Option or Alt on a Windows shows me now I have 4 different looks. So let's adjust it. Which is the one? The first one, I'm going to select a whole bunch of shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. I'm going to make them black and white just to demonstrate the concept. So step 1, you go into color. Now in color, you will notice that if you look at the area, the timeline area, you are able to look at a clip and the clip highlights, or you can look at the filter, which is the adjustment clip, separately. So in this case, I'm going to do that. I need to check that. There we go. And here is how I will make the adjustment. Black and white, simply saturation is one option. And now everybody below on that area or in that part of the timeline is black and white. If the brightness is to be adjusted, I go to my friend, the curves, make the brightness a bit come up, make an S curve so it's much more contrasted, so it's nice black and white. The second stack, I will make it saturate. Very saturated. I'm not messing with anything else other than the adjustment track, and the saturation generally means that I'm going to saturate it. So every clip that is in that stack, vertical stack, is going to be saturated. If I want to push the color burst, there we go like really crazy. Well, it's not crazy, it's just very drastic. You can see that everything is now adjusted. Going to the third stack. The third stack, I'm going to make it different color altogether. Therefore, if I pick a color, like for example, blue, I'm going to push the blue. Here's how you push the blue with the curves. If you are using tools that are not curves but wheels, you can define which is the range that you're going to work with. So I'm going to push the bright colors to blue, okay? Or I'm going to use the mid-tone colors to make them blue. And because I still want to have contrast, I push the contrast slightly at maybe 1 point, I don't know, 2, 3, something along those lines. So everything under that blanket is going to be that bluish look. And you got the concept by now. The last one, I'm going to do something really weird. I'm going to just rotate the colors, and that will require that I either right-click in the program viewer, open up the scopes, and in the scopes, instead of picking 4, I'm going to pick 1 scope. The scope that generally is making sense for this particular demonstration is going to be not the parade, but the vector scope. And in the vector scope, I need to have a denser looking, there we go, scope, as well as the graticule, so I know where I am. If you look at the scope, you know that 11 o'clock is red, around 2 o'clock is magenta, blue is around 3:30, around 5 o'clock is cyan, around 7 o'clock is green, and around 9 o'clock is yellow. And it seems to me that everything is in the brownish, the blob is moving into the brownish thing. But I don't want to have it brownish. I'm going to change the hue and see how the rotation goes. So I'm going to rotate it and make it either greenish to the left if I go down, or I'm going to make it purplish. I'm going to do it greenish, because that just is a drastic one. And if I want to saturate it, sure, saturate it. And now I have a green saturation by design. So if you are now going back to the edit, you know that you have 4 adjustment layers. 1, 2, 3, 4. With these adjustment layers, you have much more freedom. When I say much more freedom, let me just do the transition further down. There we go. I push it down to the story so they actually meet the junction points. And the cool thing here is not that you have them. That's given. The cool thing is that you can turn it off. So if you want to turn it off, in the timeline, you turn off that particular one, meaning in this case, turn off all the adjustment layers. It's a cool thing to know about. So if you are a Premiere user and you are wondering how it's done in Resolve, this is the answer to you. Next one, number 3. Color Warper. Color Warper is a new addition to the tool set of Resolve, and it really, really opened up a whole bunch of things that are, in terms of color adjustment, easier in Resolve environment. So let's park on the first shot. With your up and down arrows, you can move left or right, and Command Option K, remind yourself how to find it on a Windows machines. In the Windows, I believe it is, you find the keyboard shortcuts. You open up and you find out what are the keyboard shortcuts. I generally recommend, if you are novice to Resolve, or if you're coming to us, hopefully you're going to join us and become a Resolve user, learn how the Resolve deals with things, as opposed to try to replicate, oh, I used to do things on Premiere, or I used to do things in Final Cut, I'm going to translate that information. Learn how Resolve uses their keyboards, and that's going to be easier, because anything that you read in the book, it will always tell you the default shortcut. With that, let's close it. Option S if you are in a Mac, and let's find out what is the Color Warper doing. The Color Warper is a 2-step or a 2-tier environment control, whereas you can pick a pixel with your eyedropper. And in the eyedropper, when you pick a pixel, you're not picking a pixel with the eyedropper color. You're actually clicking onto an area. Look at it. And if you pick a pixel, you are looking at the qualifier to be available in the. And if you click on the fonts, I'm going to zoom in, use my mouse to zoom in, get the fonts front. And if I click on it, you will notice that in here, when I say in here, I'm referring to, you see that I picked that color. That is the color. So the picker told me what color that is. And if I want to go and make that green or brown, then I can actually move around and it changes the colors. And again, I don't know how your computer responds, but this is the coolest thing since ever. If I reset it, watch the reset. So let me show you a different way of doing that. I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna pick the color of the gate of the door behind. So I'm gonna zooming in, grabbing the mouse, move things around, and I pick it and I point at it. You see how it selected it? There we go. That is the color of it. So I can make it more different color. And I could, if you want me to, I can lasso a whole bunch of these guys and I can move a group of them, change the picture, really powerful. Look at how powerful it is. It changes. Or if you know what is the pixel, let me reset it. When I say pixel, I'm referring to a specific pixel. That is the one that is going to be changed a different color. Now, if this is not enough, meaning not enough choices because it's not precise enough, watch what I can do. I can go up to like 24. Whoa, that's like really, really complex. So if you select an area that you think is a brownish, let's get lasso that whole brownish area. I'm going to make that whole brownish area purplish. There we go. So all the brownish becomes purplish, or all the brownish becomes greenish, or all the brownish becomes bluish. And these are not proper English words, but I hope you understand what we're doing here, what we're saying. This is a really cool tool because I said there's two different ways of accessing it. One, you click on the actual dot that you think is the one that you want to work with, or pick and click inside using your qualifier in the program viewer and pick an area. For example, this area under the gate, select it, and that's a color, and that color, I'm going to make it like a purplish. There we go. But because it picks up others, the separation, that's where things become more complex. But I just wanted to show you that this is a new tool, very powerful, very practical. Please, by all means, explore it, use it. So let's go back and see what is on 4. Here's the face refinement. I love the face refinement. I've been doing this a long time, but I came up with a new set of tools. So when I use this face refinement demo, I am talking about some very sophisticated stuff. Here's how the face refinement worked in the past. Let's just remind ourselves. I have put together a very, not sophisticated, but kind of elaborate setup where I have a number of things covered. So if I turn off all the adjustment things that I added to this face, watch what comes up. It comes up that the woman is a very flat looking picture. When I save a setting, a lot of people use the right click and you grab a still and it contains all the elements of what you have done. Grab a still. So you can grab a still and you can save it as a color look. I have a better choice and a better tool. And the tool for me is going to be right click on the first clip. And I know that's the one that has the color because there is a color square around it signifying there's a color adjustment. If I right click on it, there is an option that says version 1. That basically is what I prepared for you. So I have a version 1. I'm going to open up a new local version, create new version, and that's going to be a clean. So I'm going to call it clean. Before I start clean, I need to find out what the version 1 was. In version 1, you had seen that I have a shot of a model, and the model is a video. Let's play it. And she looks at us. She blows a kiss. Now, when we went into the second node, I made adjustments to it, and I did the adjustment where I auto-balanced it so the brightness and darkness became different. Let me show you how that was demonstrated. Bottom right-hand corner changed to the waveform. This is how it looked original, and you can see that the dynamics are the lower and the mid-range, and because I pushed it up, the brightness came up, so now it's brighter. I have separated elements. For example, I had chosen that I have a midtone. Midtone is an effect that does the following. I'm going to blow up the picture a little bit so you can see how soft things are around her forehead. The midtone does exactly what it identifies. You see, there are some wrinkles on her face. See the wrinkles? Those wrinkles can be eliminated by saying, turn the midtone off. Okay, what's a midtone? Midtone detail can be adjusted by either making it more wrinkly or soften it. So that's that soft look. You see how it becomes softer with the mid-tone detail right under the wheel. That's what I did on that one. What did I do with the next one? The next one I said lips color. So what I did was separated the lips, and the lips I will change the color. You notice that in the node I have a separate lip. So if you want to see how it looks, I changed the color of the lips. And the next element that I worked on was the face refinement. And the last element is going to be the one that you're going to really like, is the magic mask. So to redo this whole exercise on my own, and you're going to follow it, I'm going to go into version 2, clean, reset everybody to whatever the default was, and go step by step. So the first step is I am looking at the top one, which is the mid-tone. Let me show you how the mid-tone works. Mid-tone is very simple. It covers everything unless you specify an area. Mid-tone, grab it, bring it down to 0, or push it up. Look at the difference. This is where it is really wrinkly. Really, she's like 45 years old on this one. I don't know if she is. But if I go the mid-tone down, look at how nice and soft it is. So that's how the mid-tone works. Let's take that off. What about the lip color? Now, the lip color, instead of choosing a red, I can choose a red, and you notice what happens when I pick a red. If you pick a red, it picks not just that red, it picks up a whole bunch of other red. So I don't want to mess with the clothing she wears. I would like to have just the lips. Therefore, the lips have to be identified. Resetting it, and you remember, if you're a user of Resolve, there is something called the power window. The power window is a tool that you can apply to a shape. It's the shape that you want to cover. So the power window is going to come down. I'm going to shrink the softness, and I'm going to make it smaller and put it around her lip. So I'm identifying that only the lip area is being picked. In the lip area, I have a clear understanding. Oh, it's moving. Oh my God, she's moving her face. Okay, so I need to track it. There is a tracker. If you have dealt with this, you know what I'm talking about. Next to the shape, which is the power window, there's a tracker. Here's a tracker. So now the tracker should track it. If I hit the play button, it should track it. I don't think it's going to be 3D, but let's see if the tracker works. And it tracks it decently. When I say decently, it is okay. If I want to redo certain elements, sure, I can go back one step. And in this scenario, I'm going to add another keyframe. There we go. Move the element so it goes further down, and grab it one more time. If you added the first keyframe, the second keyframe will be automatically added. So now I isolate the area where I need to change the red. That's the point. How do you change the red? Two different choices. One choice is the picker, which to me is not a bad one, but I have a better one. Say hello to your new friend if you never use these guys. They are called hue to hue, or hue versus hue, hue versus saturation. I need the hue versus saturation. So I'm going to zoom into the lips. I pick a color of the lips, and you can see that that's the color. And I can saturate it, grab it, hello, the range, or desaturate it. If I need more of the red, I pick it, but I'm not going to go crazy. I'm just going to go something that is different than the original. Here is the original, and here's the adjusted one. So if I want to see it without the mask, original, adjusted. And you as a professional, you will say, I need to see it in a vector scope. Look at the amount of red on the original. It should actually identify, and it is slightly more. So now we have the lips separated, and we have it on a full screen looking like this. So she has nice, beautiful red lips. And it probably follows it, and it's clean enough, and it's a good start. Here's another one, adding on to this. So Nate talked about the face refinement. Say hello to your old friend in the OpenFX, known as the Resolve effects. And if you don't know where the face refinement lives, in the search, type in face, and the face refinement shows up as a refinement tool. How does it work? You grab it and you put it onto the node that you want to make respond to it. And I would like to have an analyzer. This is only available in the studio version. In the free version, you can still work on it, and it will show you how it works, but it will give you a ghost mark. So you will not be able to necessarily print it. So here's how the analyzer works. Analyzer puts a green screen identifying the forehead, the eyebrows, the nose, the eyes, the eyelids, the cheek, the lips, and the chin. So what are you gonna do with it? Well, if you wanna have the eyes brightened up, you pick up the eye retouching and maybe have it, for example, eye bag removal. There we go, remove the eye bags. You can see how the eye bags are removed. Or you can do the brightening of the eye. There we go, which is like really silly. That's like really crazy. Okay, that's. But again, you do understand what the process is. You have a face tool. Generally, it works well when you look into the camera. You don't change around things. You don't change the glasses. There's nothing in front of you moving around, and that works well. So let's say that all that is done. But here is the new tool. It's called Magic Mask. How does the Magic Mask differ from everything that we have shown so far? Here's how the Magic Mask works. I'll go to the beginning and I will say, I would like to have everything left alone, whatever I did with softening everything, but I would like to have the girl's hair selected and change the hair color. You know that if you go into the little power tool, you can actually draw shapes around it and you can, select all that stuff, but that's not the way to go about it. Here's how the Magic Mask works. The Magic Mask can pick a person or pick a feature of the person, which can be clothing, face, hair, hat. Oh, let's grab the hair. So if I grab the hair, the computer should concentrate on analyzing the hair. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna, with an eyedropper, pick the hair and say, hey, this is the hair area. I'm highlighting it. You notice that I am not rotoscoping it throughout the whole thing. This might be a little bit slow. And on your end, I don't know how the zoom is gonna translate, but here's how the tracking works. It starts to analyze it and it kind of moves along and it will take some time. All right, so when it gets done, you will see when she's done, almost done, there we go. You will see that first of all, the object is selected, meaning the hair is selected. Are you done? There we go. And if you want to notice it, there we go. The hair turns red. It is not turning red, it says what is being selected. Okay, and that hair that I have selected, I'm going to change the color of the hair and I'm going to go wild on that. I know that if I don't have red, it becomes a color without the red. Okay, that becomes green. That's wild. If I have lots of red, but no blue, it becomes yellowish because yellow and green does that. And if I do this, let's see what I can work with it. Now, clearly, when you did the Magic Mask, I did not pay attention to blur and softer radius, but watch how it looks like when you play it real time. It only concentrated on the hair, and you can argue with me anything. It pretty much picked the hair. And it also got the gradations of the hair, the darker areas, the brighter areas. Clearly doesn't match with the face, but it is really a powerful tool. If you like it or if you want to use this, by all means. Okay, this tool to me is really worth the price of the club. With that, let's get out of here and get the last one, the true Magic Mask. Okay, the true Magic Mask is this. I'm gonna get a shot of an animal. In this case, I have a horse. I'm going to separate the horse. Now, this is a moving object, a moving element, a moving livestock. I already had it recorded, but I don't want to mess with it, so I'm going to take it off. Whatever I had, I'm going to redo it. Let's deactivate things. Okay, and open up a new node, whatever the node is. Right-click, add a new node, which is a corrector. So correct it green to green arrow, green to output. So here it is. Whatever I have, the automatic color is done there. And on this one, I will make sure that I have a color adjustment. So even if I have something on, I'm going to reset it so you don't think that I'm doing something goofy and it's prepared, artificial. Go on the first shot, automatic balance, it gives me brightness and darkness. The second layer, the second node is going to be the Magic Mask. So if I go and rewind to the beginning, the first step is identifying what I'm getting. Now, watch this. You have to understand two things. First, not the entire horse is visible. See, the whole horse gets exposed at the end. Keep that in mind. Why? Because when I grab and say I'm grabbing the horse, there we go. The horse is selected. Here it is. It shows me that entire horse is now red. And if I do a good job, let's see if it works. It traces the horse, but watch what happens when the horse is showing the rest of the body. It follows it. Oh man, that's smart. That's artificial intelligence. I'm always excited about new technology, and this to me was like really, really drastically new. So what I am looking for is maybe brightening up or darkening. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to make the horse a little bit darker because that's easier to identify. So if I grab it, I'll make the horse darker. So the horse is now dark. And if you look at it, the horse is dark throughout the whole area. Well, there are some minor dropouts, but it is really clear. Let's go much more sophisticated. I'm going to turn this off and add another node. So park on the node, and on this node, I'm going to pick a person. So click on the selection, identify that it's a person, identify with the plus that I'm going to get him to be the person. You see, I'm just drawing a line over him and the entire person is being selected. Wow, that by itself is magical. Watch this, I'm going to trace him. And now you notice that he is disappearing in front of the guy in the green. So how did the left hand, the left arm, and the left leg come out? Man, it's just such a high-end artificial intelligence. That's why the DaVinci people say it's black magic. So again, I hope that you like this. Now the question is, what did I do with this, or why did I do it? Well, make it a little bit darker clothes, like darker clothes. There we go. You see that the entire person clothing is darker, or brighter. Obviously, brighter is going to be really silly, but darker kind of makes more sense. Or add some colors to it. If I push the red a little bit, make it more brownish, and take away the blue. So make him warmer a little bit so he wears brown. I'm not going to go that crazy because this changes face and everything else. But if I make it darker, look at it the full screen, Control F, Command F. Now you notice that around him there is some halos. And you see how it's kind of, you know, need to make sure I'm not stuttering, and that goes into the rendering. So I have two different ways of rendering it. Either right click on the clip and tell it to render cache color output, one option. The other option is that if I am in the edit window and I do the same thing, right click and render color output. But that generally comes in if you in the playback define that you're going to render it by user setting. The smart choice means that if the computer stops and there is nothing going on, the computer will start the render background on its own. I will force it. I will user define it, park on the shot, right click on it and tell it to render the cache. And you will notice there is going to be a red line above the picture, above the clip. And if you notice that the red line is changing into blue, that means that it's being rendered into cache. And when it's done with the rendering, it turns blue. The same thing goes for the color. So if you're in color, you'll notice that the timecode numbers turn to blue. And if I want to play it full screen, Control F, Command F, there we go.
The orphan runners are a target for the poachers. The orphan runners are a target for the...
to start with. It's much more than rotoscoping frame by frame. And let's see if I have a quick minute to pump in the last one. Object removal, there are prerequisites for it to work properly. So my recommendation would be find something that is easy. So here is the easy. Well, it's easy because the camera is not moving. So that's why it's easy. The horse is moving a little bit. Well, it's not moving, but the tail is going to be flipped. Look at it. The tail comes out. So my object first is the magic mask because I need to select it. So the magic mask selects it. Okay, how do I select it? Well, like I did before things. Here's the horse, and I'm going to select the horse. The horse turns red. The problem is that watch how the tail comes out here. There we go. The tail comes out. So if I play it, I need to maybe trace it. Maybe tracing is going to be the first step. And the tracing obviously is one of those steps that the RAM does, and you need to have lots of RAM, especially if you're working with Resolve 2K, 4K, so probably 64 gigs of RAM is what I would recommend. So how do you take it out from the image? Here is a tool. It's called object removal. So if I click inside the search engine, call it object, I think it's called object removal. You throw the object removal effect on the node, And in the node, you want to have a mask overlay to show the mask overlay. Now, the mask overlay actually shows you what is that you're going to remove. So in this case, it looks like the tail is going to be a problem. Where's the tail? There we go, the tail comes out. So I have another tool that is going to be the boundary. Look at the boundary. The mask boundary is showing that I have a whole bunch of stuff to look for. I will shrink it a bit and say just around the horse I would like to remove. There we go. So now if you are done with it, you select that you get the boundary. Object, you're removing an object. How are you removing it? It's going to be an internal, so whatever you have on the video is going to remove it. And the next one is going to be, hello, linear adaptive blend. So we're going to try to blend it. So if you now go and scene analysis, go back to the beginning. Let's see if I can remove it. Scene analysis, so it analyzes, it takes time, and it tries to grab from the background something. When I say something, I meant that if you have a clean wall or something grass, you can grab it. Here, it's not just grass, it's also a fence. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and the computer tried to do a decent job. It actually, at the end, looks like it is kind of blurred, but it is not. It's trying to replace using the background. So instead of me trying to wait and waste your time with this rendering, I'm going to cancel it. And I'm going to show you how it was done. Here is how I did it. And it actually comes up with this result. Look at it, the horse is gone. So this is what my webinar was. I hope you had a good time with this. Some of the stuff you probably know about, and some of the stuff is going to be really brand new to you. So please explore. And just to show you who we are Future Media Concept, and I thank you for attending the webinar. I believe that if you signed up and they have your name, you will be able to get this webinar down the road, maybe in a day or two. Thank you very much, Saramonic. Thank you very much, Dell. And my name is Tibor. The webinar is over. Keep up the good work. Thank you for attending.